It's almost 7 minutes past the deadline. We're not hearing anything about that. Ashley, we'll start with you there.
I'm actually kind of surprised, but I think it takes two to tango, right? So even if Memphis was interested in dealing him out, there had to be a team that was interested in trading for him, and maybe that just didn't exist. But I don't think it's a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, because the Memphis Grizzlies are headed in such a drastically different direction than they were with Ja Morant. And it's unfortunate because I keep saying that this was a team that I really believed was going to be a new face in the West. They were young, they were cool. I liked the way they played. I liked how they played as individuals, collectively as a unit. But if you look at that core four, Desmond Bane is in Orlando. Jaren Jackson Jr. is now in Utah. Dylan Brooks is in Phoenix. And Ja Morant's kind of the last domino standing. It would be hard to believe with the direction it looks like Memphis is going, which is to kind of start from 0 or maybe like 25, that they would include Ja Morant in those plans. I just think that maybe the market wasn't there for the return that Memphis wanted.
Which is surprising because they can't expect too much of a market. Trae Young set that market for that player archetype, and it's basically cap dump. I can't imagine.
They could be greedy because of what they got for Jaren Jackson Jr., which I don't think would be smart, but they could be.
Then they're delusional. He doesn't have near the value that Jaren Jackson has. I'm surprised that somebody didn't come in pre-deadline here and take a sort of a pennies on the dollar risk on Ja Morant, because his market's not much. He could have been had for not too much. So he'll still be able to be had in the summertime, so we'll see.
All right, the LA Clippers were able to send off Zubac to the Pacers, James Harden to the Cavs, but kept Kawhi Leonard. And Ashley, you stated that you believe that that's the right move for the Clippers to not sell everything right away. Why is that?
Because I still think you need a bridge piece. I think sometimes, especially if you still want to be somewhat competitive, you can't just expect to put a group of people together and for it to work, especially when you're talking about younger players, when you're talking about players who, is this Cleveland? Oh, okay, that's
I know. I was trying to make sense of it too. There we go.
Behind my head? But I just think that you have to have a piece from the past when you're thinking about the future, and I just think Kawhi is that piece. I don't know if I would necessarily be eager to move him unnecessarily. I don't. For me, it just doesn't make sense.
Once they traded Zubac, then I was like, and I am on the get rid of Kawhi train, because if they would have kept Zubac next season, Darius Garland, Zubac, Kawhi, you can still say this is a good team. Once you get off Zubac and you become a 2-star team with Kawhi and Darius Garland, they're moving on.
But you're putting a lot of faith in Darius Garland if you do move on Kawhi, for depending on what you get. Now, if that's just a bunch of young players and some picks, or you go star hunting. But if it's the first part, you're putting a lot of faith in Darius Garland to lead a basketball team in the Western Conference, and I don't think he's there yet.
If you want to win right now, yeah. The thing to consider about the Clippers, this is a huge X factor. Talk about the rich getting richer. The Clippers owe their first-round pick this year, unprotected, to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if they get bad, and they end up with the 5th pick in a super draft, that's going to the Thunder. So this whole rebuild idea in the Clippers, that's a bit of an obstacle to overcome. You'd love to rebuild with a top draft pick. Whatever pick they get this year, if they end up crappy for the rest of the year and they end up with the 5th pick, it's going to the Thunder. So you talk about the closet winners of this deadline. You get rid of it, the Thunder are sitting back saying, the Clippers just got worse. They traded James Harden for a guy in Darius Garland who's kind of hurt. They trade Zubac. Whatever the pick the Clippers end up getting, the Thunder own. So the Thunder are twisting their mustache right now and hatching this plan to come in and snake the Clippers pick, and it looks pretty good.
So we had several stars who were not moved, like Kawhi Leonard, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, like Draymond Green.
Sabonis.
But we did have Anthony Davis. Yeah. I don't name bigger than game at this point. Yeah. He was moved. Yeah.
That was clever.
A year.
That was good. That was good.
It's a Pete Prisco-ism. A year after the infamous trade involving Luka Doncic to the Lakers. The Mavs then turn around and ship AD off to the Washington Wizards, who now, in theory, have Anthony Davis and Trae Young.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there
No,
are a
they
couple,
have 'em.
There are a couple. No,
in theory,
Will they actually play is another question.
There are a couple of Wizard fans upstairs who are.
You need a wizard to make that happen, like a little magic to make sure that they get on the court.
There are a couple Wizard fans upstairs who are like, "Oh, this is great. 6 through 8 is." It's not. I think in theory it sounds good, but I just kind of believe when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And we kind of, again, this is not a knock to Anthony Davis because I think he's exceptionally talented, but there are just players who have the unfortunate reality where injury is a huge part of their career. And if it can happen to Anthony Davis, it seems to happen to Anthony Davis. And I do think that the Wizards will land a top pick in the lottery and be able to start thinking about, you know, that next iteration. But if we're talking about it, and I broke it down with Brad yesterday, when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, you can't forget rather, the Celtics are going to have a whole season with Jason Tatum. Tyrese Halliburton's coming back. Now we see what the Pacers are doing. You can't forget about teams like Miami. You don't know what they're doing in the offseason. The 76ers. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't see a world where the Wizards are anything above the 8th seed. 8 through 10 for me is where their range is.
Yeah, it's all relative though. Like right now they're in the basement, and they didn't.
They'd celebrate that, wouldn't they?
Exactly. You have to have realistic expectations. You know, to go into things and say this team has to become a contender in order for a trade to make sense. To me, I remember when Rudy Gobert got traded for 4 first-round picks to Minnesota, and everybody said, literally, people called that the worst trade in history. They'd never seen, you know, sometimes you have to go and get a player who that pros and cons list doesn't work out maybe the way that you would want it. There's some cons, as there were with Rudy Gobert, but you take a chance because you're in a position where you need to do it. And the Wizards need to do something to start putting some sort of winning roster around the young guys, Sarr and Johnson, that they want to develop, Kaishan George. They've had some nice young pieces, and they didn't have to give up that much to get them. Those picks are sort of fake first-round picks. It's a 2026 OKC pick, which is going to be like number 30, and it's a top 20 protected Warriors pick down the road. So you're looking at a late first round or a conveyed second rounder for a guy, again, I agree with Ashley, he's probably going to be hurt, 90% chance, but you didn't risk that much for the 10% upside of Anthony Davis. Now, on the Dallas side of that, becomes more interesting. If you grade that trade as an extension of the Luka trade, it's a joke. For the guy that you traded for Luka Doncic,
But look at all this they got for Luka. Look at all that.
They got nothing. Now, if you look at it, which is really the way you should look at it, that the Luka trade is done. No use crying over spilt milk. They just simply got Davis off their books, and they officially became Cooper Flagg's team. They opened up some cap flexibility. So if you look at it through the prism of this is an extension of the Luka trade, it looks disastrous. But that's really not the reality. The reality is the Luka trade is done, and they needed to get Davis off of their books and move forward. So yesterday we gave it an F because it was an extension of the Luka trade. But if you remove that part of the equation and say, well, that part was done, they got Davis off their books, they freed up some flexibility, and they officially became Cooper Flagg's team.
Ashley, come summer, do you keep or move Kyrie?
Good question. Good question.
I feel about Kyrie the same way I feel about Kawhi in a sense.
Because you're not paying his $50 million.
Well, that's a...
Keep him around.
Yeah. But I also think, I just think that from a financial standpoint, yes, I agree with you. But I still think when Kyrie is healthy, he's an asset to your team. It's not like you're paying somebody who doesn't play, paying somebody who hurts you more than helps you. Kyrie, much like Kawhi, when they are on the floor, they make your team better. And I just don't believe in putting so much faith and so much responsibility on young players who are also still trying to figure it out and expecting an immediate return. I'm a firm believer if this is not a Udonis Haslem situation where you're paying somebody, and again, UD wasn't making that much, but just using him as an example, where you're paying somebody who doesn't contribute and occupying a roster spot for someone who doesn't contribute. That's not the case with Kawhi. That wouldn't be the case with Kyrie. I think you need a bridge piece. And for me, Kyrie is more than that. He's so skilled. He's so talented. I keep him. I keep him if there's nothing out there that really excites me. I'm keeping him.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, winners and losers on the other side as we've passed the trade deadline with